Hi, I'm Robin Appleby, a senior consultant within our technical enablement team. In this session, we're going to look at data management throughout the ArcGIS system, specifically looking at mapping facilities and indoor spaces. ArcGIS provides a range of tools and capabilities for data management, from deciding what data we want to capture and store, to designing a data schema to provide structure and consistency to our data, right through to providing tailored applications for our users that give them access to that data in ways that are relevant. We're going to see how ArcGIS can provide an accurate system of record so that we're able to capture data once, not require any further validation, and provide that data in a ready-to-use format for other users. We're going to do this through a real-life scenario of looking at Esri UK's head office Millennium House and our return to the office post-COVID. We're going to update the digital twin and make a few modifications to it. Firstly, in ArcGIS Online, we'll look at how we can provide a simple editing environment to update outdoor features around Millennium House. And then we'll look at how we set up that data model to allow that editing environment to work. Then we'll move into ArcGIS Pro, where we'll look at a more advanced data model, specifically the ArcGIS Indoors Information Model. Then we'll look at Suite for ArcGIS, a simple editing environment that will leverage the data model that we've put in place, but also add additional capabilities to further constrain and prevent errors from our editors. And then finally, we'll look at field maps, an example of a mobile application that can leverage the data schemas, and in this case, the indoor information model that we've put in place. So let's start in this simple web application that we've built with Web App Builder. Here we can see the layout of the Esri office and the car park and landscape. And the scenario here is that our staff have, in the last year or so, increased the amount of electric vehicles that we have. So we need to add some additional electric parking bays at the office. You can see that I've already started marking out this area. And through this simple web application, I'm able to choose from a predefined pick list of features that I can add in. And as I edit data, we'll see that the symbology is automatically retained. The details of the type of feature are automatically populated. And even details of who created the data and when are automatically populated. The only thing that I can do here is add some additional comments should I wish. So how did we set this up? Firstly, we need to create some data in the first place. You might be uploading an existing data set, but ArcGIS Online provides tools for creating a new feature layer, and we can either use an existing template or we can start from scratch and decide what types of features we're going to capture. Once that's done, let's drill into our outdoor lines as an example. We can have a look at any data that we've captured, and we can look at the schema or structure of the data. So we can see here the list of fields associated with every data record that I capture. But if I want to add more in, I can just press the Add button and choose what I want to add in. So this data set will contain information about who created the data and when, but also the type of details, so whether it's a parking line or a wall or a fence. If we drill into this detail, we have some further options. For example, is this specific field editable? Do we allow empty values? So is this a mandatory field? We can also create a pick list of options for our users to, again, make it easy for them to capture the data and to constrain them. So I can add in specific types of features that I want to capture, and that will then be presented to them as a pick list. If we go into the Visualization tab, here we can set up the standard symbology that we want our user to be presented with. And once established, if I save that layer, that's what all users will see when they add that data set to their maps. Finally, if we go into the Settings tab, we can set up things like whether we want this entire layer to be editable or not. And if we do we want to establish this audit tracking so that we know who updated the data and when? And we can even configure whether editors are allowed to update or add features or simply delete features and so on. So that's how we set up data in ArcGIS Online. In Pro, it's a very similar process. We can create new features, we can set up the symbology. The pick lists and the schema are done slightly differently. If we look at this example here, if I open up the Fields tab, here we can see the schema of the data, and I could add additional fields in here. And for the pick lists, we call those domains in ArcGIS Pro. It's a case of establishing a domain through the domain window. And here you can see that I've set up various different pick lists for the different types of features that I want to create. Now, some data schemas are far more complicated than this. Let's have a look at the example of Millennium House indoor spaces. Here I'm using the indoors information model, which provides a whole series of different data types that are all interrelated and all have a common data schema so that it can understand the relationships between those different elements. So for example, here we have a levels feature that allows me to specify the level of the building that I'm on. We have units that represent rooms within those floors. We have details, which are line features that represent walls and partitions. And we also have points of interest to represent things like fire extinguishers and first aid kits. And all of these data sets understand the relationship between the others. So for example, if I click into this first aid box on the first floor, we can see that it knows that it's a first aid box. It knows that it's within the first floor kitchen on floor 1 within Millennium House within the Esri UK site. And this is what then drives that relationship that allows me to pick out a particular floor and just see the features on that floor. Now, the indoors information model is just an example of the information models that are available in ArcGIS. There are many more for various different industries. So once we've created an indoor information model in this case, we can share that to a wider audience by publishing this map, in this case to ArcGIS Online, so that it can be then used by other users. So now let's have a look at how Suite can understand and use those data schemas that we've put in place. First thing I'm going to do is return to my electric parking bays and just show some of the additional capability that Suite offers around this. If I go to create a new feature, you'll see that I'm presented with, again, a pick list of different features, but Suite allows me to structure that into logical order. If I choose my parking lines and I try to draw a parking lot line outside of my car park, you'll see that it won't allow me to do that, and it tells me at the bottom that my edit was not permitted. So we have spatial rules in place that constrain where I can capture features. If I go to create it in the correct place this time, you can see that I can enable snapping to trace against existing features. And we can provide interactive feedback that shows me the implications of what I'm doing. For example, I'm blocking a fire escape here that I need to keep clear. We'll have a look in a moment at how those rules are set up, but there's an example of how Suite can go above and beyond what the data model will do. Let's have a look at a little bit more of the data model in action by moving inside Millennium House and moving to the second floor. What we can see here is that Suite is using that data model to allow me to filter between the floors of the building. And when I go to create a feature, for example, let's add a vending machine here. As well as symbolizing that data correctly and populating the attribute table with the type of feature, as we scroll down, we can see that Suite has automatically populated details such as the site name, the floor, floor level, and so on. So it understands the schema and it's pre-populating it for me. Final example I want to show of some of the rules that can be built into place in Suite is the creation of the desks that you can see here. I'm just going to remove them for a moment and then we'll pop them back in. So we have a specific row of desks tools that allows me to draw a line where I want those desks to fall. I can specify how many rows I want to create and specify the distance required between those desks. And it will automatically create the features for me. Again, populating the indoor information model. So how does Suite do some of these things? In simple terms, it's all about building the business rules in place. Let's have a look at a quick couple of examples. Map feedback is where I can put the rules in place to warn users that the features that they're drawing, in my case the car parking areas, intersected another layer of interest. So we can build rules in place through Suite's scripting environment to understand, as I'm moving the mouse pointer around, I want feedback. With the row of desks, I have a specific smart editing template in place that understands, again through scripts, how to go about creating those features, and it's just then presented as a simple tool to me. Once we've established our data in an information model, like the indoor information model, we can then share that out to a wider audience. For example, in Suite, I can open up a 3D scene of the building, and using the details that have been captured about the floor types, floor levels, and so on, we can create an immersive 3D scene that replicates all the details and shows it in a far more immersive environment. And for my facility manager and other staff that want to access this information on a mobile device, I can use field maps, which will also leverage the floor awareness of the indoor information model, so long as it is in compliance with this data schema. This means users using the Field Maps mobile application can see that same data model, can see the floor layout, but can also use the floor picker to choose a particular floor of interest, to aid in navigation, or also, as they create data, it will be automatically locked to that particular floor. So as we've seen, ArcGIS provides a whole range of capabilities for data management, right from setting up your data in the first place, designing the structure of it, and then sharing that out to your users, all with the aim of simplifying the editing workflow for your users and removing the need for data duplication and data quality assurance processes. Thank you for watching.